Shut the actual up about autofocus already.
It's time for Hollywood Grump.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hollywood Grump. I am the Grump, aka the Short Fuse, aka the Baby Gorilla, aka Fatty McButterpants. Here on Hollywood Grump, we talk about everything from new and used gear, including testing and reviews, to surviving the business of Hollywood, to stuff that just irritates me. All through the lens of a man who's old enough to know better, but doesn't. For all you gear nerds out there, today's episode is shot on a Helios 44 III 58mm f2 with a Metabone speed booster. The bokeh's not quite as swirly as the one that everybody knows and loves, but it's pretty sharp wide open. I wouldn't say it's tack sharp, and there's definitely some blooming going on. But overall, it's a great lens. I found it on eBay for 65 bucks. If you can find one for around that price, I suggest grabbing it, taking it for a ride. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it, and remember, this lens is not dirty. It's just the way I look.
Was there a chemical fire?
Isn't anybody gonna help that poor man?
Okay, let's get right to the nards of this. Stop pitching a fit about whether a camera or a lens has autofocus capabilities. It puzzles me that aspiring filmmakers aren't learning how to pull focus. You need to learn how to pull focus. There's a couple of reasons for that I'll get into in a minute. But in general, it's the number one comment that I hear about any new camera that comes out. Well, the autofocus is lousy. Even if it's a camera that's dedicated to cinema use, autofocus is the first word that pops out of everybody's mouth. Stop it. Just stop it. It is absolutely bananas. There are no real cinema cameras out there that have any kind of full-time autofocus, because autofocus is never ever used on any film set. I will exclude some people from this conversation. If all you do is shoot YouTube videos, or you vlog, or you shoot footage of your nephew's 5th birthday, fine. Autofocus your ass off. I don't care. Sounds great. If you aspire to be an actual filmmaker, you had better learn how to pull focus. Let me ask you this. What happens if you're on set and something goes wrong with your autofocus? Meaning, something goes wrong with the contacts, it's not communicating with the camera correctly, your lens just generally f***s up. What do? You gonna cancel the rest of the shoot? If you think it doesn't happen, it's happened to me. Now, there are times where autofocus is just great, and I call it the set it and forget it situations. You're shooting an interview. You just wanna make sure you have a locked on, tack sharp focus on the person you're interviewing, and they're not gonna be moving around a whole lot. Great. Autofocus. Tremendous. Remember though, if you're shooting on a cinema camera and not a DSLR or a mirrorless or what have you, autofocus is not gonna be either available or very helpful. As long as you're not gonna be touching the camera, your subject's not moving a whole lot. Great. Go ahead and autofocus. For pretty much any other situation, there is no advantage to autofocus. First and foremost, you're gonna be fighting the camera all day long to make sure you're getting autofocus. You're gonna blow some really great shots because the autofocus isn't working correctly. And yeah, okay, blah, 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 Sony, great autofocus, perfect tracking, whatever. You're still gonna blow some shots, and there's definitely gonna be some shots in there that are pulsing back and forth where it's hunting for the focus. More importantly, when you move to bigger productions, higher budget, you will commonly have an assistant camera operator or a focus puller. A focus puller doesn't give a shit about autofocus. Their entire career is based around the idea of being able to nail those marks manually. Nothing will make a client shake his or her head like you blowing a shot because you were relying on autofocus. I'm gonna step back for a second and say, I follow a lot of YouTubers who are excellent gear reviewers, and one of my all-time favorites is Potato Jet. Now, I'm exhausted every time I'm finished watching him because he's so manic and fast-paced, but he does a really, really good job, and for the most part, a thorough job, going over gear reviews and making recommendations. Recently, however, maybe not that recently, I came across one of his videos entitled Stop Using Manual Focus, which was an entire video dedicated to the idea of only using autofocus all the time. Jet, I say this with admiration and respect. Are you f***ing nuts? You're instructing aspiring filmmakers to not learn how to pull focus on a manual focus lens? You use manual focus lenses. That's nuts. It's nuts. It's, of all the great advice you've given over time on your channel, that's easily in the top 5 worst pieces of advice I've ever heard. You cannot rely on autofocus for everything. You absolutely need to learn how to pull focus. It's part of your craft like anything else. Basically, the only thing I can even equate it to remotely is Michelangelo saying, I want to paint, but could you print the image on the canvas first? And then I'll just paint over it. Are you fucking shitting me right now? You have to learn how to pull focus, just like you have to learn every other function of your camera. One of the first things all of us do when we get a brand new camera is to go through all the menus and make sure we know how to use it properly. How to adjust the frame rate, how to adjust the exposure, the shutter angle. Put it in different terms. A carpenter doesn't just buy a tool and hope that it works okay, or doesn't figure out how to use it. They learn how to use it. This is your tool. This right here. Learn how to pull focus. It's one of the few parts of your craft that you really shouldn't live without. If that means you need to take an online class or an actual film class, or just talk to a cinematographer that can teach you how to pull focus properly, how to set focus marks, an A and a B, do it. Because it's ridiculous to think in any way, shape, or form that you will not at some point need to manually focus something. I'm gonna guess someday you're gonna want to own cinema lenses. Real ones, expensive ones. Or at the very least rent them. There's no autofocus in a cinema lens. If you've never practiced, how are you going to use those lenses? It's not as easy as you think. By not learning how to pull focus manually, you've relegated yourself to using still lenses for the rest of your career. If all you're doing is shooting YouTube videos or you're vlogging and you really don't care about any kind of long-term career in filmmaking, fine, use autofocus. Go crazy. But if you're serious about becoming a filmmaker and you want to do more than just grab while you can, get while the getting's good content, you really need to learn how to do it. Practice. Put 2 targets in a room and practice going from one to the next and back again. See how good you can get at ramping the speed down and back so that it's not an abrupt push from subject A to subject B. But it's nonsense to think that you'd never need to learn how to use this. If you think it doesn't happen, take it from me, from a real world experience, it does. Lenses fuck up. You have to explain why you're stopping down for an hour. You can't just cancel the fucking day because your autofocus doesn't work. I dare you to explain that to a bride with all that's going on in her mind. If you shoot wedding video, I dare you. Go to the bride and say, my autofocus isn't working. I'm not sure if I can finish the day. Good luck with that. I know I come off as preachy, but it's for good reason. My perspective is trying to make you a better filmmaker. You cannot do that if you rely on auto anything. Someday you'll aspire to own a cinema camera, or at least rent one. Cinema cameras don't have any of that functionality. Okay, a couple of them have one-touch lock autofocus, but for regular tracking, continuous autofocus, no. And if they do have it, I wouldn't rely on it. Learn your craft. Learn how to interact with crew members. With any luck, it's going to happen at some point. You're going to move up to that level. Stop talking about autofocus. Stop talking about it. It absolutely enrages me. It enrages me more when a great cinema camera comes out and the very first word out of some Nimrod's mouth is, well, it doesn't have good autofocus. F that nonsense. Everything else about the camera is cinema ready, including the fact that it doesn't have autofocus. That's cinema ready. I promise if you learn how to do it and you practice it, somewhere down the line it's going to save your ass. And somewhere down the line, it's just going to make you a much better filmmaker. When I was a kid, I was handed down a piece of advice from one of the wisest men I've ever known. My maternal grandfather, rest his soul. It was very, very simple, easy to remember. Buy it nice or buy it twice. As technology has advanced, people are buying stuff that's a lot more affordable. I get it. We are definitely in the landscape of now. Get it now, buy it now, use it now, particularly when we're talking about the way modern content is used. There's a never-ending appetite for content. Now. Give me more. Everyone has some kind of video content associated with their brand. The problem I'm finding is that people are going out and buying cheap gear so they can get up and running faster. You know, I don't want to sound like an old codger, but back in the day, if you wanted to buy cinema equipment, it would take you months, years to save up to get it. Now with advancements in technology, really great cinema equipment is available on the way cheap. And it is super tempting to want to buy something right away. You say to yourself, well, I could save up for an extra couple months and get the really good lens, or I can buy this one that's so much cheaper, and I've heard it's pretty good. Guilty. I am guilty of this. People that know me know that I'm a serial researcher. I will research something for months before I make a purchase. But there are definitely times when I want something right now. I could wait a little bit longer and get the better one, but I kind of want it right now. But there's a couple of reasons why you'd want to buy quality gear. As someone who's been on what feels like 1,000 sets or productions, you will realize almost immediately how banged up shit gets on a set. Inevitably, as the day goes on, you're falling behind schedule. No matter how well you've planned it out, you can't avoid it. It just happens. As you start falling further and further behind, you start getting a little less careful about how you're packing your gear. I mean, I've seen everything from a grip putting a lens in his cargo pants pocket to stuff getting thrown in the backseat of a car, in a backpack, people carrying it in their hand. Stuff gets knocked over, kicked around, banged around. You cannot avoid it. There's a huge reason why rental houses only buy top quality gear, because they need to stand up to the rigors of production. Production sets can be a godless dystopian wasteland. You are trying to get the shot, and it doesn't matter what you have to do to get it. And the first time a piece of your gear gets broken that is crucial to your production, you'll remember that forever. The first time your production gets shut down for however many hours because one piece of gear isn't working right or has gotten knocked over and broke. I've seen full-on cinema cameras get dropped. I've definitely seen lenses hit the pavement. Luckily, at least on the surface, they survived the fall because they were built like absolute bomb shelters. Now, I've mentioned before how I don't really pay attention to still photographers doing lens reviews, except for one thing. When they start talking about the build quality, my ears perk up because build quality is super important. That's both for still lenses, for cinema lenses, for cameras, for camera bodies. Because ultimately, if you go the cheaper route and buy the cheaper gear, you'll end up buying it again. I promise you that. So being able to keep up with the beating that the gear will take on a production is definitely a huge reason why you should invest in quality stuff. Stop thinking about buying equipment as just buying equipment and start thinking about it as an investment. You are investing in your craft, period. The way I look at it, if you're not investing in your craft, you're not serious about your craft. And if that means you need to ease back the throttle a little bit and save to get something just a little bit better instead of running out and buying something because it's cheap, so be it. It is an investment in your career, your chosen profession. The gathering of content has definitely changed. You can certainly do more with less expensive equipment. And like I said, it's non-stop. There will always be a need for video content. So yes, I know the feeling. I need to get stuff right now so I can get out and start shooting content. And that actually makes me happy because I love seeing people going out and creating things, making things. I love makers. That sounded weird, love makers. And also I want to make an important distinction. There is a big difference between the stuff that you buy for your own, let's say personal use, and the stuff you use on professional productions. If you're vlogging, if you're doing YouTube reviews, If you're just shooting stuff for friends, the quality of the gear isn't going to make that big of a difference. Except for that bride thing. Keep that in mind. But when you eventually move up to the level where you have clients on set with you, they kind of notice the shitty gear. It's one of the fastest ways to lose the trust of your client when they look at your stuff and say, this is all garbage. What is this Tonka toy stuff he's shooting on? Any opportunity to gain and hold the trust of a client is hugely important, because if they trust you, they will stay out of your way. But the minute they have questions, they're gonna be right over your shoulder, man. Right over your shoulder. And I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been on the client side and I've been on the production side. You absolutely notice when someone has crappy gear. It gives you an oogie feeling like, hey, did we hire the right guy? Why are we paying him so much? Look at the shitty gear he's got. So while I truly understand the impatience of wanting to get out there and just get stuff, I really want you to consider buying quality stuff. First of all, it'll last forever. If it's built well, if it's good quality equipment, it'll last a long, long time. Buy it nice or buy it twice. And on a more visceral level, as I just mentioned, you will look more professional.
We interrupt this program to bring you an off-the-rails rant.
Now, in an effort to be completely transparent, I need you to know that primarily, I'm talking to you, Sigma owners. Sigma lenses are relatively cheap. They make a good picture, sharp. They perform relatively well. And they are built like absolute fucking garbage. Garbage. Anytime I watch a review of a professional photographer recommending people buy these Sigma lenses, the hair on the back of my neck goes up. Why? What a waste of money. Do not buy them. Take it from me, do not buy them. They look good while they're working. And before you start taking virtual pen to paper, actually do a little research on your own. I know I'm gonna get haters that are like, no, the Sigma is the greatest lens that's ever been made. Do yourself a favor when you have the time, walk into any lens shop that does repairs and ask them what the #1 lens that comes into their shop is. Or I can save you the time. It's Sigma. The #1 lens in any lens repair shop is Sigma lenses. The focus ring gets loose, the aperture starts to wiggle, the mounts start to get loose. I've seen some with the focus ring completely pulled off of the lens. They start to have problems communicating with the camera, the contacts go bad. Sigma lenses are also the #1 used lens on eBay.
You did it! Congratulations! Great job, everybody!
There's a reason. Actually, there's a couple of reasons. One, because the build quality is so shitty and people start to, oh no, it's getting loose. I better get rid of this and buy another one. And two, when you have the opportunity to use a higher quality lens, you realize that they're not as great as you thought they were. And they're not so good. There's at least 2 of my favorite YouTubers who recommend these lenses. At least 2, more than that. Jesus H. Christ on a pogo stick. What are you doing recommending this garbage to people? 99.5% of the time, everything you recommend is right on the money. What are you doing recommending these garbage lenses? Most of you are using them permanently set up in your studio. They're never leaving. You're not even turning the focus ring for the most part. It's the same setup you've had for the last year, and you're not changing lenses out. So it's certainly not experiencing normal production use. There's a huge elephant in the room for me every single time. You're not talking about the quality of this thing and how long it's gonna last. This is not a lens you're gonna pass on to your kids or your grandkids. That thing will be in a dumpster. They'll talk about initial build quality, how it feels in the hand, how the focus ring works. That's not build quality. That's not long-term. Stop it. Stop it. Stop recommending these crap lenses. Maybe your audience are people that want to get stuff right away and get started right away and are just all about saving money. I'm about saving money. I don't want to spend frivolously on stuff. But if I know this lens is going to be in the trash heap in a few months or a year, that is a total waste of money. You're gonna be buying it again. Buy it nice or buy it twice. Most people that own them, even if they've gotten them on recommendations, only own them because they've never tried anything else. You're gonna be buying it twice. You'll be buying it again. So instead of spending $699 on a lens, ultimately you're spending $1,400 on a lens. Moreover, you will be desperate to ditch the one you got, trying to sell it. I'm a collector of vintage lenses, cinema lenses, still lenses, huge collector. You're talking about lenses that are 50, 60. I have at least two that are 70 years old that still work perfectly. They still function exactly as if they just came out of the box. They are built to last. There's some modern lenses that are built to last. I think Tamron lenses are fantastic. Great image quality, built like tanks. I believe that they're gonna last me a long, long time. Voigtlanders especially, Voigtlanders are built to last. You will be passing that on to your grandkids. Sigma lenses do not fall into that category. They do not. Take 2 minutes to go on eBay right now and type in Sigma. Buy it nice or buy it twice. But let's set that to the side. I am not in any way recommending that people live beyond their means. I'm not telling you to go out and spend more than you have just to get better equipment. Are there cheap pieces of equipment that do a good job? Absolutely, 100%. I recently bought three GVM video lights. I bought one because I was attracted to the price, got it in for some testing and realized it's pretty good. I'm sure GVM makes bigger, better lights, but for the purpose I was buying these, I didn't really want to invest in that. Are they the greatest output in the world? No. Are they the highest CRI that I could find? Nope. But they're under $100. And for stuff like this, it's perfect. For shooting an interview, especially in a confined space, awesome. But do they have the pro features I would need for a professional production? No, not in any way. I don't think they're built for that. I don't think they could handle the rigors of production. They're built really well. And like I said, I'm sure they have even better built, bigger lights. So that's a perfect example of me having to now buy that light again, buy another version of it. If I had just saved a little bit longer and bought whatever would be their best product, I wouldn't have to buy it twice. I haven't saved any money in the long run. So to wrap this whole thing up, please just remember that philosophy. Super easy to remember. Buy it nice or buy it twice. Nice, twice. It's an investment like any other. Investing in your retirement, investing in your college fund, whatever it is, it's an investment. It's a long-term investment in your career. I think you're worth it. Lastly, I want to thank some people that helped me put this show together. The great folks at The Garden Creative, bless their hearts, who helped me out with some of the gear and some of the graphics. My great friend Buzz Burbank for lending his golden throat to the project.
Thanks, JR.
My wonderful wife for letting me take over the whole house to film.
You said 2 hours.
And my kids.
Give me $40.
I need a ride.
If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed Hollywood Grump. Until next time, get the hell out of my house.